Thank you. Hey, greetings and welcome, seekers of truth and wisdom, to Soul Wisdom Transitions, where we embrace the magical dance between mind, body, and spirit. This sacred space is dedicated to guiding you on a soulful journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and spiritual awakening. Get ready to harness the power within as we embark on a transformational odyssey toward more enlightened and fulfilling existence. Open your hearts and minds, for the wisdom of the soul awaits. Let our transition begin. Well, welcome to today's episode, and what I'd like to discuss today is vulnerability and the role of invulnerability, embracing our imperfections and rewriting our self-narrative, which, of course, as I've referred to in the past, are those stories that we keep telling ourselves that are keeping us from living our best lives. Vulnerability allows us to acknowledge and accept our imperfections and our flaws. And if you look at the word imperfections, get a moment, spell it out, I-M-P-E-R-F-E-C-T, imperfect. Now write I am, leave a space, perfect. I am perfect. So we are all perfectly imperfect. So the definition of vulnerability is the state of being emotionally open, exposed, and honest about one's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. In the context of the Soul Wisdom Transition podcast, vulnerability refers to the willingness of guests and hosts to share their authentic selves, stories, and wisdom with the audience without fear of judgment or rejection. It involves deepening connections, fostering empathy, and creating a safe space for genuine conversations and transformative growth. And for me specifically, vulnerability is actually hosting this podcast. I'm putting myself out there into the Ethernet and trusting through my soul wisdom that my message is being heard by someone who needs to hear it. That might be you. If it's not you, I invite you to share this with a friend who you think this might help. But we all have vulnerability, and we're all afraid, or many of us are afraid to expose it. It keeps us from getting on stage and speaking. It keeps us from, getting out there and dancing. It keeps us from being our best selves and enjoying life to the fullest, because what if? What if someone doesn't like me? What if I don't have on the right clothes? What if I don't fit in? And my answer to what if is, so what? So what if someone doesn't like you? So what if you're not wearing the right clothes, whatever the right clothes are? So what if you don't fit in? Embrace your imperfections. We all have them. And if by embracing our invulnerability, we can change society's unrealistic expectations and standards of perfection. I mean, let's face it. We're not going to look like a supermodel. So what? You look like you. Embrace who you are. Enjoy your vulnerability. Embrace all those imperfections. Over the course of our lifetime, we have accumulated dents, dings, cracks, tragedy. I myself have had a cracked occipital bone with a right frontal hematoma. Some of you who know me know that I am a traumatic brain injury survivor. So when I get up and talk, Not always, but sometimes I mention that I'm a traumatic brain injury survivor, and I embrace that vulnerability because every so often there is literally a glitch in my matrix, and something goes off kilter and I have to deal with it. So if I'm upfront about it, people will say, "Oh my gosh, look at that. She just had a glitch and she's carrying on, and it is who I am. I embrace it." I could um I could embrace that invulnerability and have it keep me from being my best self. I could have it keep me from, doing this podcast. It could keep me, what happens if I have a glitch in the middle of the podcast? So what? I'm dented. I'm damaged. I'm broken. And I'm pretty awesome despite that. And you are too. So vulnerability, it helps us, or it keeps us from genuine connections. And we need to see that every one of us is flawed. And that's okay. So, for instance, a while back, I had the opportunity to do a presentation to a group of women. It's called Dress for Success, and it was here in Denver. It was an hour-long presentation. And I was writing out my, opening statements and my bullet points because I do not go by script. I kind of wing it, which is how I roll. So my opening statement to this group of women who I had never met was, "Hi, my name is Terry, and I'm an alcoholic." And I went into what else I am. I'm a life coach, and at the time, I showed my opening to a friend, and their first response was, "Oh, you don't want to say that. You want to let them know that. Why would you put yourself open like that to this group of people that you don't know?" And I checked in with my soul wisdom, and I just knew that was how I needed to open up my presentation. So I did. "Hi, my name is Terry, and I'm an alcoholic. And I've been sober now for 29 years. I'm also a traumatic brain injury survivor, and I'm an equine gestalt coach." And I went on with my presentation. At the end of the presentation, the facilitator of the group came up to me and she said, "I don't know if you noticed the table in the back of the room. There were, 6 women sitting back there by themselves, kind of off to the side." She said, "I'm so glad you opened up your presentation the way you did. They are all recovering alcoholics. And you just proved to them that they can get up and be themselves despite being an alcoholic." So I was vulnerable. I opened myself up, and I found out that by doing so, I touched those 6 women and showed them that you can be vulnerable, you can be a recovering addict, alcoholic, whatever, and still live an amazing and productive life. Another time, during that same presentation, as I was talking, my microphone went out, and they couldn't fix it. And I could have not shown my vulnerability, and I could have stopped talking. I could have waited until they got a new microphone, whatever. And I just put the dead mic down and said, "Okay, I can react and freak out, and what good would that do? you guys wouldn't get the benefit of hearing my presentation, and I wouldn't get the benefit of reaching out and talking to each one of you. So I'm going to talk louder, and if you can't hear me in the back of the room, just let me know. Again, I embraced my vulnerability. I didn't react. I didn't freak out. And actually, I was able to use that situation in my presentation by showing them that by choosing to respond to the situation instead of reacting to the situation, I took control, showed my vulnerability, embraced it, and it was like, no big deal. So let's keep going. So vulnerability, it encourages our self-reflection and self-awareness, and it leads to a better understanding of our own values, desires, and purpose. So you can be aware of your vulnerabilities. You can choose not to share them. Obviously, there are situations where you just do not share your vulnerabilities, and that's fine. Specifically, you're on the first date with someone, and, you're not going to just lay everything out there on the table. Not on the first date. Perhaps later on, if there's a second date. But you have to embrace, some of your imperfections, because, as I said, perfect. I am perfect in my imperfections. And I love that, because we all are imperfect. We are perfectly imperfect. So by embracing your vulnerabilities, you are able to touch into your soul wisdom and acknowledge and embrace the fact that we all have vulnerabilities. And by embracing them and speaking them, you're actually showing whoever you're talking to, whatever your audience is, that you are stronger despite your imperfections, or in spite of your imperfections. Yeah. We have all sorts of imperfections, and by being vulnerable, you give the person or the people you're talking to the opportunity to be okay with their own imperfections. Now, as I said, one of my vulnerabilities, putting myself out there, doing this podcast, Soul Wisdom Transitions. I knew nothing about podcasting. And just a few months ago, I got an email, or I saw something on Facebook, and I told you I don't even know where it came from. But I was invited to participate in a class. It's called the Podcast Accelerator. And this fabulous class, in the matter of 8 weeks, takes you from, it's one class a week for 8 weeks, and it takes you from knowing what type of equipment to have, from headphones to microphones to ring lights, all sorts of things. And they walk you through how to do a podcast, how to set up your trailers, how to set up your intros and outros, your artwork, your music, everything that you now benefit from. And in the course of 8 weeks, they take you up to and including recording your first episode. So I embraced my vulnerabilities, because my story is, who's going to want to listen to me? Who's going to want to listen to what I have to say? And now I have a healthy, very healthy audience. Thank you very much for listening. I have a fabulous team of um, engineers and who helped me through this at Ginny Media. And by embracing my invulnerability of who's going to want to listen to me, I'm able to be very comfortable on camera, um, in audio, and these guys make me look fabulous. Thank you. Today's engineer is Oscar, so thank you, Oscar. And the vulnerability is, something we all carry with us. I was very vulnerable when I wrote my first book. It's called Finding True Purpose. Some of you are familiar with that, but can be found on Amazon. And throughout the process, my writing coach and editor had to, not only did she talk me off the ledge on occasion, but she would sit on the ledge with me and help me process through the, who's going to want to read my story? Who, what, why am I laying myself out there? Why am I showing people how broken and damaged I have been throughout the course of my lifetime? And by embracing that vulnerability, I am now an award-winning author. And, that's my book up on the shelf if you're watching a video. But, I mean, how cool is that? Embrace your vulnerabilities. What is it that's keeping you from being out there and, just you want to teach the younglings that we are perfectly imperfect. Moms and dads are perfectly imperfect. We all have flaws. We all have dings, dents, cracks, whatever. We all have stories that we tell ourselves. So we're going back to the stories, which I have touched on in the past. These stories are what's keeping you from being your best self. These stories are what was keeping me from being my best self. I'm not good enough. Nobody's going to lead, no one's going to want to read my stories. No one's going to listen to my podcast. And yet, here I am, episodes in, comfortable, and award-winning author, and speaker. I'm on a panel with other women on Monday, speaking to Denver Startup Week group on Monday, and it's just so many opportunities that you're missing by letting your vulnerability keep you from being your best self. So be vulnerable. Get out there. If you're vulnerable and someone, makes some snarky comment, oh, well, that's their problem. So what? Is it going to end your life? No. Is it going to, screw up your day? Only if you let it. So be vulnerable. See what happens. You put yourself out there. If I had not been vulnerable and put myself out there at my Dress for Success presentation, I would not have shown those 6 women that you can be a recovering alcoholic and be successful. So share your stories, share your vulnerabilities. That's how I would guess that many of your best friends and most treasured relationships are because they know your vulnerabilities and they're there to support you and be okay with it. So reach out to me in the comments section or send me an email. I'd be happy to help you through your vulnerabilities and explore those. And that's how you create day-to-day relationships, deeper understanding of yourself, if you're vulnerable, if you understand your vulnerabilities, you can embrace the wonder that is you. So before we end, as I do on my solo episodes, it's time to acknowledge and thank our fan of the week, M. Sorrow, who shares this. I love the premise of this show. Learning to listen to the whispers of our soul is the ultimate gateway to being in alignment and in all areas of life and business. I can't wait to listen to more episodes as they drop. So I want to say thank you, M. Sorrow, for being our fan of the week. If you would want to be considered to be a fan of the week, please leave a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and perhaps I will pick you. So, vulnerability, find your own, get quiet, listen to your soul wisdom. And that little voice inside is saying, it's okay. You are who you are. Embrace who you are. It makes you, you. And it makes me, me. So embrace your vulnerabilities, share them with those who you think is appropriate. And if you have any questions, reach out and I'll help you through it. So that concludes our episode for today. And I want to thank you for tuning in to Soul Wisdom Transitions. Remember, as you navigate through the twists and turns of life's transitions, trust in the wisdom of your soul, embrace the lessons, honor the growth, and always remain open to the guidance that comes your way. Thank you for joining us. Please share this with others and have a lovely rest of your day. So after the fan of the week, okay. I think so. Okay. So, got it. So that concludes our episode for today. Thank you for tuning in to Soul Wisdom Transitions. Remember, as you navigate through the twists and turns of your life's transitions, trust in the wisdom of your soul. Embrace the lessons, honor the growth, and always remain open to the guidance that comes your way. Thank you.